more breaking news tonight and more evidence of turmoil within the administration over its tactics and its decisions. Sources telling CNN an FBI agent who investigated, or at least tried to investigate, the ICE officer who shot Renee Good has resigned. Shortly after opening the civil rights investigation into the officer, the agent was ordered to reclassify it as an investigation into assault on the officer. Joining me now, the Hennepin County Attorney, Mary Moriarty, and John Sandway, who served as acting ICE director during the Obama administration. Mary Moriarty, I want to start with you. Your office is currently investigating Good's shooting. What do we know about, do you know anything at all about this resignation, and what does it tell you about the administration, debate within the administration over how to go forward?
Thank you. I just heard about and read about the resignation, as I think many people did. It tells me that a professional investigator, an FBI agent who was a career agent as opposed to a political appointee, thought that it was appropriate to do a complete investigation and send it to the Department of Justice. But people who didn't know as much as she did about the investigation decided to order them to stop the investigation. And the only thing I can think of is that was for political reasons. And I think it's hard to understand, and I think the public should be disturbed that there isn't an investigation, as there should be, as there is in Minnesota. Anytime a state peace officer takes the life of a person, there is a complete and thorough investigation, a decision about whether charges are appropriate, and transparency.
What can you tell us, Ms. Moriarty, about timetable for your investigation, the Hennepin County investigation?
So we are doing the investigation in tandem with our state law enforcement agency, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the BCA. As you know, we created a public portal so that people could submit evidence because we were not receiving evidence, and I'm guessing we're not going to receive any evidence from the feds. And we received substantial information there that is helpful. So the BCA continues to investigate and interview witnesses, and our hope is to gather all of the evidence that we think we can gather and then be able to make a decision about whether charges are appropriate or not, and then announce that publicly with transparency so that the public understands exactly what happened here.
John Sandway, in terms of the 5-year-old boy and his dad taken into custody, what are the protocols for children being taken into custody with their parents? And what is the training when you handle a situation like this? You know, obviously it can be a tense situation. The agents are in a tough spot, but you had all other people there saying, leave us the child. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah, John, I think the problem really with this case goes back to what were they doing there in the first place? There really is absolutely no good law enforcement reason to target an asylum seeker like this. The only reason you would go after someone like this who's already in, you have to understand, he's already in deportation proceedings. At this point, there's no evidence that he failed to appear in court or that he was ordered deported and failed to leave the country. He had a court hearing coming up. So the only reason you would ever go get him is if you later found out there was something we missed in that initial vetting when he crossed the border and he was paroled in the United States. Let's say there's a criminal history or something that said he's a public safety threat. But now you arrive on the scene and you say, we're taking him into custody no matter what. You got a problem on your hands. You have a 5-year-old child there. The problem is you can't necessarily easily hand him over to a neighbor or some good Samaritan just because of the danger to that. You need to give it to a legal guardian. But of course, the mother is not going to come out because you have a zero tolerance policy on arrest. In every other administration, really, even during the first Trump administration, what ICE would do is leave. They would not take the father into custody. There's no law enforcement value there, you know, and you have this, you've created this dilemma where you're either separating the child or ripping the child away, putting him in a detention facility away from his siblings and his mother. Again, John, I think that's the big issue, though. This is a situation that was created once you arrived and decided you're arresting that father.
You took a lot of flack. The Obama administration took a lot of flack for the high level of deportations then. We didn't see, obviously, public scenes like this. There were some families separated. That was a controversy. But I want to ask you, it's been 3 full days since this happened. So if the government actually has something, that the dad actually did violate something, that he had violated some law, that he was not simply waiting for his asylum process to play out. They've had 3 full days. I assume if you were in the government and you were dealing with something like this, you would release that material, would you not?
I'd release the kid. I'd release the father, like very quickly, but absolutely, of course. If there was some basis here, right? There's some reason from a law enforcement perspective, you know, again, that we were detaining this child with his father, I would do it. But I mean, of course, I would announce that to the public. But again, John, I just want to say one thing. The only reason this is happening is because of stats. right? This administration has put ICE under this relentless pressure to rack up stats. And the reality of the situation is an asylum seeker is the low-hanging fruit. He's an easy target. You know where he is. He's not going to run. He's not going to be out there hiding. The criminals are hard to get, John. There's a few of them that they can grab easily, but generally speaking, tracking those criminals requires working with these communities, gaining information, working with your state and local partners to get evidence from their investigations about where these gang members and other people are. We don't want to do that anymore because it's slow and it results in lower numbers. Instead, we're grabbing asylum seekers off the street and creating situations where now we have a 5-year-old in detention stripped away from his siblings and his mom.
And Mary Moriarty, I just want to drill down on this point again. If the federal government had some evidence of criminal activity by the dad, and they were trying to get him off the streets before what happened on Tuesday, wouldn't your office get a BOLO, be on the lookout, or some sort of a notice that you got a bad actor in your community? Can you help us? Did you get any such document?
They don't communicate with us, but I think it's very telling we haven't heard that from the administration. I think you're absolutely right. And I think we need to talk about the reality of what happened here. We say detention, which sounds, not as bad as it's an actual cage. It is in a jail. And this is a 5-year-old child. And I would ask anyone in the administration, would you be okay with your 5-year-old child being in a cage, essentially, with his father, when his father was not engaged in any criminal wrongdoing and, in fact, relied upon the government to be here seeking asylum? So this goes back to the administration's repeated insistence that they're only after the worst of the worst, and that is why they're here in Minneapolis. And here we have yet another example of a peaceful person relying on the government, going about his own business, and ICE comes in and takes he and his 5-year-old child and puts them in a cell. That, I think, is just reprehensible.
Mary Moriarty, John Selway, grateful for your time tonight. Thank you.